Hello, I'm Robert here, and it's another thing that most of the people, in just about everyone who I contact, who we are in touch with, when they first contact our group, they just don't have a clue about the importance of quarantine or why you quarantine. It's the same thing that the reason you quarantine is just like the reason you isolate. It's to protect your household, primarily, most of all. So if you are in contact of a COVID-19 case, the most important thing is to quarantine away from your own household. And if you do that early on, and if you turn out to be one of the ones who's infected, then you can be preventing them from getting COVID-19. And 80% of the transmission happens in that way within households. So if we can do that effectively, make a huge, huge difference. I'm just going to play Mike Ryan explaining about that, and explaining about this is his one golden wish, is if we could do that. Dr. Mike Ryan of the WHO.
You know, let's be plain and honest here. If you are a case or you're someone who's positive, you should be at home in full isolation or in a clinical care facility. If you are a contact of a case, if you know yourself to be having been in contact with the case, you should be in full quarantine at home without contact with other people, or in a third facility and without contact with other people. And that is not so as to imprison people, that is so as to break chains of transmission. If we're seeing transmission now at community level, and then we do big major lockdowns and we push that transmission back into the household, and what we're seeing in many European countries and North America is that a good deal of transmission is occurring at the household level. So it's gatherings at home that are doing a good deal of the transmission. So even if you end up with a societal level lockdown and people continue to gather in those environments, we're still going to promote and continue transmission. So countries are facing many dilemmas right now. But for me, if I get a chance or a golden wish to improve one thing that we could really, really improve and change the game here, apart from all of the other advice about using masks and physical distance and asking that people can stay the course, and it's tough. But if I was being asked, as a public health physician, if I was asked for one thing that could improve, that might change the game here, that is making sure that each and every contact of a confirmed case is in quarantine for the appropriate period of time so as to break chains of transmission. And I do not believe that has occurred systematically anywhere, and particularly in countries that are experiencing large increases now. That has been very hard to sustain over the summer, and I think a good part of the reason why we're seeing such high numbers at the moment.
So there we are. The reason we're going to lockdown in the United Kingdom, and the reason we had this big surge since the summer, and this is a good part of the reason, is because contacts are not quarantining. And very few people here that once they contact us, they haven't made that connection. It's not been made clear to them, and they don't understand why you quarantine. And so, and as he said, that if we were to do this proper quarantine, it would just go off a cliff, it would just go down, down, down very quickly. Because like 80% of it is that way, and the contacts are really the best way of dealing with that. And so I just want to explain a little bit about why, a little short interlude as to why it is. So here we are, here's this graph, and it'll look a bit puzzling to you to start with. Don't worry, it's not that techy. So at the beginning, that 1/1, that means that everyone is symptom-free. As it goes down, that means that 1/10 of them are symptom-free after about 8 or 9 days. Down here, 14 days, about 100th of them are symptom-free. So it's very different from flu. What you've got to notice is how long it takes before you develop your symptoms. And then you're only infectious for 2 days before symptoms. So, for instance, suppose you're down here and you're the 1 in 100 that it takes 14 days. Then you've got the virus in you all the way along, and there, but it's completely undetectable. Tiny, tiny amounts in your body, slowly growing. And it's only a couple of days, like day 12, that you develop symptoms. If you say day 12, there's no sharp cut-off. This 14 days it's to a certain extent arbitrary. They choose, pretty sure they choose 14 days because it's a round number, or it's just 2 weeks exactly. It could easily have been 12 days or 16 days or whatever. But they chose 14 days. And then the UK has changed it to 10 days. But it's how long is a piece of string. But the thing is that the virus is just in you all that time, undetectable, and then it surges up. And if you took someone who's that long, and if they quarantine right from the beginning, it's a really tedious thing to quarantine for that 14 days, but that's why they're doing it, to catch it before it surges up. To catch it for just those 2 days, you quarantine the entire 14 days just to catch it for those 2 days at the end. But most people, then it'll be, about half of them it'll be within 5 days, and they'll be quarantining for 4 or 5 days in order to catch it just before it surges up. And then half it'll be more than 5 days, so half of them, they're going to be quarantining for they'll be quarantining for at least 3 days before they can become infectious, and most of them will be more, and half of them will be at least 3 days before they become infectious. And they're just at home, they're not infectious to anyone, but they don't know that. And then they've got the virus in them, and then at that point they become infectious. And most of the contacts won't have it. And so the way it works is that you've got the choice of lockdown. You lock down the entire society, or you isolate quarantine just the contacts. And one person typically would have only 20 contacts. So those 20 people all isolate, and they've got only 1 in 10 of those probably are actually infected. So that would be 2 out of those 20, say. But you get all 20 of them quarantining in order to isolate those, in order to break the transmissions from those 2 that eventually develop the infections. So if you have a contact, your chance of passing it on is quite low, but it's much higher than someone who isn't a contact. And that's why you do it. And you're doing it to protect the rest of your household, as well as the people outside the household. And especially during lockdown, it's especially important during lockdown that if you're a contact, you quarantine away from your own household. And this is just not made clear, and most of the people, for whatever reason, it's not been made clear to most people that I help. If people have tried to explain it, they haven't explained it very well, because it just hasn't worked, and they don't know. They don't understand why you quarantine, don't understand why you isolate. And because everyone wants to protect their loved ones in their household, and people who are close to them. And if they understood that that's why you do it, they'd have much more incentive to do it. And so that's that. That's the quarantine. And I think we should have supported quarantine. We have hotels where people go to quarantine, and they don't know if they got COVID-19 or not. And the hotel staff would know how to look after these people who are quarantining in a way to keep themselves safe, and to keep the different people in the hotel safe from each other. So then you have COVID-19, don't give it to anyone else. I think it'd be much better done like that in hotels or community centres, which is what Mike Ryan briefly mentioned there in the clip that I just played. So where he said where they could be in some third place, which would be like, for instance, a hotel or community centre. And a few countries have done that, but certainly not in the United Kingdom. It's not that widespread. That would help a lot too. And it should just be free. Not they've got to be charged for that. Their government should pay them. They're like superheroes if you're quarantining, and you're saving your government billions of dollars and the need for lockdown by doing this properly. So they should be, but it's not so easy once you've got, as it is now, we would have to have tens, I don't know how many thousands of people we'd need to have in hotels around the United Kingdom, but especially once the numbers go down, then it would really be good to implement this, doing it in hotels, and they should make it a VIP experience. So that was another thing. Where was it? VIP experience. Oh yeah, it's my hotels one, but I can't think where it is. Wait, suggestion of a hotel. Right. So this was Dr. Tom Friedman, former director of the CDC, and he said in a tweet, quarantine should be a VIP experience. If we make isolation and quarantine things people want to get into rather than out of, we are more likely to succeed. If we reimburse people for lost income and take care of essential tasks such as groceries and laundry, we'll all benefit. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to turn a corner a bit in January when Biden becomes the President of the United States, because he follows the science. And so, like Jacinda Ardern did in the United States, in New Zealand, it doesn't matter what their politics, it doesn't matter what else it is about them, but if they are communicating directly and clearly to the public, and they are both like that, and respecting the science and following the science, and not attacking the science, then that is the key to ending this as quickly as possible. We will be able to finish it with the vaccine. We can do it much, much, much faster if we do it like this. And sadly, there's not much we can do to influence what the governments do, but we can help spread the good information to each other. And so do please check the links in the video description. I'll put all these things up as links. Follow them up, and then tell your friends, colleagues, whatever. Try and spread the good information. Like for instance that clip that I just gave of Dr. Mike Ryan, and so few people know that. I mean, the journalists, they don't have clips of you don't get journalists playing that clip like I just did at the beginning. You never see that on the BBC News. I don't think many people in the UK know that, and it's just not been. I've never seen anyone on the BBC News putting it clearly like that, in the way that Mike Ryan did there. It's a rather uncomfortable home truth, because he says that he doesn't believe anyone in Europe is doing it properly and systematically. So it's an uncomfortable home truth. But we, as individuals, we can protect ourselves. So that's the next one. The next video is going to be how you can do, we can do our own contact tracing. And Dr. Ryan says that there. That'll be my next one.